Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Hello, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited about this. This is going to be a full body, mind, soul, and science exploration of burnout and how to recover with compassion and power. Okay? Burnout isn't just exhaustion. It is an overextended survival state. And when most people say they're burned out, they're usually talking about being tired. But burnout goes so much deeper than fatigue. And it's not just about those long hours or the bad sleep. Burnout's what happens when your nervous system is pushed into a prolonged survival mode. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn without a break. And it's what happens when you override your own boundaries for so long that your body finally says, no more. And today we're going to break down what burnout really is so you can finally recognize it when it is happening and stop blaming yourself for not being able to push through. Okay? I think you're really going to enjoy. I'm excited about this episode. So let's start. We're going to start with a reminder that burnout is your nervous system's SOS. Burnout is not laziness. It is your body, the body's cry for regulation after being in prolonged stress. And when you're running on adrenaline or cortisol for days or weeks or months, eventually your system crashes. And this is not out of weakness, but out of or as a survival mechanism. And it's your body forcing you to pause because it does not trust that you will. And that's why even resting can feel unsafe for somebody who's deeply burned out, because your system forgot what rest even feels like. Okay? You know, it's a trauma response, not a time management issues. And most people think that burnout can be solved with a better planner, but it's often rooted in trauma. And it's not always that time management issue that you might be thinking. Like if you learned early on that your worth is based on productivity or perfectionism or people pleasing, then burnout becomes your body's inevitable end game. You didn't choose it, you were conditioned for it. And that's why we need more than just a bubble bath. We need repatterning. Coaching similar to like what we do in Self-Love Uni, can help you uncover these subconscious drivers and begin choosing something new patterns, okay? Burnout also hides behind high achievement. Burnout doesn't always look like collapse. Sometimes it looks like over-functioning, like you're showing up, you're doing all the things, you're making moves, and you're still feeling numb inside. You are not lazy, you are overactivated. And the worst part is people will praise you for it, you know? And that's why it's so hard to spot, because burnout hides in the people who look like they're doing great. Okay? And I'm laughing. I know if you're listening, you've probably been on that end of it at some point. You know, burnout is the body asking for safety. So healing from burnout starts with one question. What would help me feel safe today? Because burnout isn't just physical exhaustion, it is a full system overload. And your body has to believe you're not in danger anymore. And this might mean cutting back on output, but it could also mean reworking your beliefs around rest and enoughness and self-trust. When we do this in coaching, it changes everything. When I did this in my own life, it changed everything. I could not even fathom the idea of taking a nap. I would say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I had there aren't enough hours in the day mindset. And I would not allow myself to rest. I just wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't have even, it was wild, like how much I resisted letting my body rest, and I would work and work and work and work until I burned out. We're going to get into that. But let's just keep going. Burnout is not a failure, and you're not broken because you burned out. Even if you've been doing the work, even if you've been really intentional on your journey and you still were like, what the heck? I like burned out. I just burned myself out. I know better, right? But you're not broken because you burned out, and burnout's not a failure, okay? You just been doing too much for too long with too little support. And you've probably been praised for it every step of the way, maybe even. And here's the good news. Once you name it, you can work with it. And that's the first step to healing. And you're already on your way. Okay? Burnout's not a flaw in your personality. It is a signal from your body. And when you finally learn to decode it, everything begins to shift. And if this resonates with you, you are not alone, and you don't have to stay here in this place. Okay? Healing from burnout, it does take time and care and support. And that's exactly what we offer in Self-Love Uni and my coaching programs. You can get support to rebuild your rhythm together. And that feels really good. That feels like relief immediately. There's something that I've often talked about, the culture of burnout and why we celebrate what is killing us, okay? We live in a society that glorifies burnout as ambition, and it kind of labels stillness as laziness. And I'm saying that because that's how I used to feel. And we're told to hustle and grind and earn rest only after we've collapsed. And so it is no wonder that we keep overriding our own limits. And this culture doesn't just encourage burnout, but it rewards it. But in this little segment here, we're going to pull back the curtain and naming what's really going on. I want to do that so that we can stop wearing burnout like a badge of honor and start choosing a more aligned way to live and work. So this idea that productivity is worshipped and rest is punished. Somewhere along the line, we started tying our worth to how much we produce. And if you're not hustling, then you're falling behind, or you're seen as falling behind. Even our language reflects it, like grind season, team no sleep. Again, what did I say earlier? I'll rest when I'm dead. But rest isn't a luxury or a reward. It is a biological need. And until we rewrite that narrative, burnout will keep feeling like the price of success. I now realize it doesn't have to be that way. And burnout is not the price of success. And there is a more holistic way to do it. I recognize, like, for instance, as an entrepreneur, I'm going to say this, like if you've got a launch happening, maybe you wrote a book, maybe you've got a product or a course or something, and it's launching, you're in a launch little season period. That's going to require more out of you, more of your presence, more of your energy, more of your attention, more of your time, more of all of these things, right? And you know that going into it. And so the thing is there, what I'm saying is there is a way to arrange your life and your lifestyle in a way that you recognize there are going to be those seasons and that you account for it and that you still have boundaries in place and that you still prioritize rest and that you still recognize that you can avoid burnout, even if you're going to be called to show up in every capacity in a greater or more intense way for this set period of time. You can do that in an aligned way, is what I'm saying. Of course, this requires awareness, intention, attention, all of the things, okay? Planning. So what I'm saying is that burnout does not have to be the price of success, okay? We inherited these beliefs that no longer serve us, and many of us were raised by generations that believed struggle equals virtue, maybe even mentored by generations that believed struggle equals virtue. And if you weren't exhausted, you weren't trying hard enough. But what if our ancestors were just surviving and now we get to do it differently? You don't have to live on autopilot. Becoming aware of these inherited mindsets is the first step to releasing them. Like I said, it's always starts with awareness and bringing things that are in our unconscious mind, shining the light of our consciousness onto them, right? Bringing them into our conscious awareness. Capitalism does benefit from your burnout. So let's just name it. A burned out person is easier to manipulate. When you're exhausted, you're more likely to overspend, overconsume, and under-advocate for yourself. And this system benefits from your depletion. So when you start prioritizing rest and joy and wholeness, well, you're not just healing yourself, my friend. You are pushing back on that system, okay? We normalize things that are anything but normal. And being tired all the time is not normal. And having a constant headache or tension in your shoulders isn't normal. And snapping at your kids or forgetting words or dreading every single Monday, it's not just how it is. Okay? We have normalized symptoms of burnout to the point where we no longer notice them sometimes. It's time to wake up, is all I'm saying. You deserve peace and rest and to not dread every week. Okay? You do. Another thing to keep in mind is that burnout is not a personality trait. It's kind of a cultural wound. Like if you've ever said, I'm just the kind of person who never stops, it is time to pause. There was these commercials. It's been, I don't even know how long ago. It was like, is it an Energizer bunny? It was like the batteries. And the tagline was maybe it just keeps going, like this Energizer bunny. It just keeps going because it has the Energizer batteries in it. And I remember using that sometimes to describe me and my working. I was like, the Energizer bunny, just keep going. And so what I'm saying is this, if you've ever said something along those lines, like I'm just the kind of person who never stops, well, it's time to pause. Okay? That is not your personality. It's a pattern, and it likely came from somewhere. So once you realize that, you can make a conscious choice to change it. The world will not always slow down, but you can slow down. And when you do, you create a ripple effect for your family, for your community, for your future self. If you are ready to start that shift, Self-Love Uni and my private coaching containers are designed to help you reconnect with your worth and restore your energy and rewire the beliefs that keep you running on empty. Okay? I want to talk about what burnout actually is and what it isn't. Okay? Burnout is not just about being tired. It is a state of deep energetic depletion that affects your body, mind, spirit, and yes, your nervous system. And it's often misunderstood and minimized or glamorized. But real burnout isn't something you bounce back from after a nap or a weekend off. It is a signal from your entire being that something has been off for too long. And in this segment, we're going to unpack what burnout actually is and explore why it's more than just being overworked. Okay. You're going to start to see your exhaustion in a whole new light. Burnout is a nervous system collapse. It's not just a busy schedule, okay? Because it's often dismissed as just being too busy. But it's actually a full body nervous system collapse. It is when your body has been in a prolonged stress state, like sympathetic overdrive, and can no longer sustain it. You shift into what is called dorsal vagal shutdown, apathy, fatigue, numbness, disconnection. It feels like your spark is gone. No amount of hustle harder can bring it back, okay? Understanding burnout through the lens of the nervous systems helps you to realize that this isn't weakness. It is a signal that you have pushed beyond your body's capacity to cope. Burnout is often rooted in hypervigilance and emotional labor. Many of us burn out not from doing too little, but from doing too much emotional labor, like constantly performing and people pleasing and caretaking, or navigating unsafe spaces. And hypervigilance, and especially for trauma survivors, keeps the nervous system in a heightened state of alertness, even during rest. So burnout becomes the result of years of doing the most just to feel safe or accepted. So it's not laziness, okay? It's survival mode catching up with you. And recognizing this can shift your shame into compassion and your guilt into grace. Burnout is not a personal failure. Again, it's a cultural system. I believe we are living in systems that reward overworking and undervalue rest. So burnout isn't just happening to you, it is happening through you as a response to capitalism, to grind culture, to collective conditioning, etc., etc. You didn't make burnout happen alone. You were trained to override your body's cues in order to be productive or valuable. When you see burnout as cultural illness, okay, and not as a personal flaw, you can stop blaming yourself and start reclaiming your power to heal. Burnout often hides in high performers. Again, it doesn't always look like collapse. Remember, it can look like overfunctioning and perfectionism and being the one who has it all together. High performers often don't even recognize they're burned out until the crash happens because they have trained themselves to operate through adrenaline and praise. And if you're the one that people go to, the one who's so strong, burnout can be your shadow. And you're not weak for being exhausted, but you're human for needing rest. Okay? And remember, part of shadow work is integrating your shadow, recognizing that okay, yeah, this is something that I do. And not from a place of shaming yourself, just from integrating and saying, I recognize this. And I'm human for needing rest, okay? Burnout is not a phase either. It's a signal for transformation. It's not the end. it is a threshold. And it is your body and your soul inviting you to recalibrate your life and align with a new way of being. When you stop seeing it as something that you have to push through, okay, and you start seeing it as something to listen to, healing begins. Burnout can be your wake-up call, your turning point, your tipping point. That's been my word lately. Your initiation into a softer, truer version of success. So, will you answer it? Burnout isn't just something to recover from, it's something to learn from, is what I'm saying. And your symptoms are sacred messengers. And once you start paying attention to what they are trying to say, you unlock the door to a radically different way of living. In the next segment, we're going to explore how burnout shows up in uniquely different, or I guess, how burnout shows up uniquely in different personality types, and how your healing must be just as personal. Burnout does not wear a universal face. It manifests uniquely depending on your personality, conditioning, coping strategies, even your attachment style, okay? Some people burn out loudly with public meltdowns, while other people burn out silently while still performing at a high level, okay? So we're going to look at how different archetypes experience burnout and the ways that we can better understand and support ourselves through it. Through burnout, okay? Because healing is going to start with that recognition, and you have to keep in mind that no two healing journeys are exactly the same. Even some healing that you're doing today and healing journey you started 10 years ago, like your own healing journey doesn't even look the same, okay? Let's start with the high achiever. This is burnout in disguise, okay? So for the high achiever, burnout's going to look like pushing harder and harder and harder until you cannot. And you ignore the signs, the sleep issues, the tension headaches, the lack of joy, because slowing down feels like failure. So you are praised for your output, and so you keep producing, okay? Even when your body is screaming for rest. Burnout here is often masked by productivity, and often no one knows how deeply exhausted that you really are, okay? And the path to healing starts by realizing you are worthy even when you're not performing. Now, let's look at the caretaker. This is burnout from overgiving. So caretakers are going to burn out by giving so much to others that there's nothing left for themselves. You are the emotional support system for everyone, often without being asked. And you pride yourself on being dependable, but secretly you're drained. Your burnout shows up as resentment, irritability, or even illness, but you feel guilty taking time for yourself. Healing starts with boundaries, with realizing that your value isn't tied to how much you sacrifice. Okay, the avoider. This is emotional burnout from numbing. Avoiders are going to experience burnout emotionally through detachment, procrastination, and disconnection. And you avoid facing hard truths or feelings, hoping they'll go away. But that emotional suppression builds pressure, and eventually it leaks out through anxiety, fatigue, or burnout-induced paralysis. You might tell yourself you're fine when really you have checked out. Healing for the avoider looks like learning to feel again, feeling safe enough to feel what's real without judgment. The perfectionist, this is burnout fueled by control. And for the perfectionist, burnout is rooted in trying to control everything, to make it just right, and to avoid criticism, and to keep the image intact. And you're always editing and planning and fixing until there is nothing left in the tank. And the pressure to be perfect squeezes the life force out of you. You may not even allow yourself to feel tired because rest feels like letting standards slip. And healing starts when you stop holding your worth hostage to performance. When you realize done is better than perfect, and alive is better than ideal. And then the free spirit. Burnout from over committing. Even the wild ones burn out. The free spirit often says yes to everything. Projects, adventures, emotional labor, without grounding themselves. And your burnout doesn't look like a 9-to-5 breakdown. It looks like overextending your energy without a clear container. And you chase the next high and the next idea, the next thing, until you crash. And for the free spirit, healing begins with structure, with honoring your energy as sacred and learning to say no without guilt. Guys, burnout wears many masks, and the more we understand how it plays out in our unique nervous systems and identities, then the more compassion we can extend to ourselves and others. You don't need to fit anyone else's definition of burnout to begin healing. What you do need is to tune in. In this next little segment, we're going to talk about what actually drives us into burnout in the first place, and why we keep going even when we know we're headed there. Okay? So we already know by this point that burnout is not just a result of too much work. It's often a result of deep inner programming, unconscious beliefs, childhood conditioning, cultural narratives that push us past our edges. So I want to explore the roots of burnout and the subconscious drivers that fuel it, and why, even when we know we're approaching the edge, we often can't or won't stop. So the goal here is to bring awareness to the unseen forces within us so that we can begin to untangle from them and choose differently moving forward, okay? So this subconscious programming of I must earn my worth, okay? Because many of us were taught without words that rest must be earned. And these values come from what we do, not who we are. So even when our bodies beg for rest, we keep pushing because somewhere deep down, we believe we'll only be lovable or successful or safe if we keep producing. Okay, this isn't laziness or lack of boundaries, it's wiring. So healing begins with the realization that your worth is inherent. It's not transactional. You are already enough. Okay? The cultural glorification of hustle. We'll go to that one more time. Because we do live in a world that idolizes the grind. We celebrate the no days off mentality and normalize exhaustion as a badge of honor. If you're not burnt out, are you even trying? You know? And this is a toxic narrative that's seeped into every industry and identity, and it's convincing us that burnout is just part of success. But real success is sustainable, and it's not going to cost you your health. And it's rooted in alignment and not adrenaline. And you don't have to, again, sacrifice your well-being to be worthy of your dreams. Trauma responses can masquerade as drive. So sometimes what looks like ambition is actually survival. The people-pleasing, the perfectionism, the hyper-independence, these are often trauma responses and not personality traits. And we learn to be high-performing as a way to stay safe, to avoid rejection or chaos. But the nervous system can't tell the difference between true urgency and perceived threat. It just reacts. And the key isn't to shame ourselves for overworking. It is to get curious and to ask, what is this drive really protecting me from? Remember, it's just got to ask yourself the right questions. And for many, burnout's easier than stillness because stillness makes us feel. And there's this fear of stillness and what might surface. When you stop, the thoughts get louder. The grief bubbles up. The identity built around doing starts to dissolve. So we avoid the quiet by staying busy, even if it's destroying us. But on the other side of stillness is clarity. And you deserve a life where peace doesn't feel threatening. You're allowed to slow down and still be loved and successful and safe. Pardon me. Let's be honest for a second. Adjusting the mic, pardon me. Burnout sometimes does feel rewarding because people notice that external validation is fuel, right? They applaud your sacrifice and they see your late nights and your hustle and your capacity. And that external validation becomes addictive. But applause is a shaky foundation for a sustainable life because when the noise fades, you are left with the question, was I ever doing this for me? And true healing comes when we begin validating ourselves and choosing wholeness over applause and inner peace over outer approval. We don't burn out because we're weak. We burn out because we've been conditioned to ignore our limits and to override our inner wisdom. However, every moment is a chance to choose differently, to reprogram, to lead with trust instead of fear. So, as we continue this episode, I want to shift awareness, or rather shift from awareness to action, and explore what we can actually do to reclaim our energy and prevent burnout moving forward. How does that sound? Sounds like a good idea to me. Because again, burnout is not something just to recover from. It's something that we can learn from to prevent and redirect and heal with compassion. And while, yes, awareness is the first step, healing does require real life action, like your habits, your mindset shifts, the nervous system practices, right? That help reclaim balance and softness and clarity. So let's dive into some tangible strategies that you can begin today. These are the practices that I come back to again and again in my own life and with my coaching clients, because you don't just deserve to function, you deserve to flourish. Okay? So let's bloom together. For one, micro rest as a daily ritual. We often think we need a whole ass vacation to rest. No, you don't. No, you don't. Healing starts in the tiny moments. I teach my clients, schedule these micro rests, 2 to 10-minute pauses that reset your system throughout your day. Close your eyes. Take 5 deep breaths. A little segment of intention. Lay on the floor and stretch. Go outside. Put your bare feet on the ground. These tiny resets signal to your nervous system that you're safe, and they help you build rest into your routine rather than waiting for a breakdown to force it. Okay? Self-permission and nervous system rewiring. Okay? So sometimes the biggest healing begins when we simply give ourselves permission to say no, to rest, to feel, to not have all the answers, to not have to figure it all out. But for many of us, permission has to be practiced. So try saying aloud, I give myself permission to rest today, even if I didn't finish everything. Over time, this retrains your nervous system to decouple productivity from self-worth, okay? And the more we practice, the more natural it becomes to lead from self-trust rather than self-pressure. There's also the power of boundaries, even the internal ones. Boundaries aren't just for other people, they are for us too. So learning to say no to overthinking, to the impulse to check your phone before bed, to working just one more hour, okay? Internal boundaries help you protect your peace when no one's watching. Try identifying your burnout triggers and then create a simple mantra. And it's something that, you can say when they arise, like, my peace matters more. And this isn't about restriction. It's about protection. and your energy is sacred. And so guard it like it is gold. Okay? You can also replace achievement with alignment, because burnout often comes from chasing someone else's idea of success. So one of the most radical things that you can do is pause and ask, is this still what I want? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Shifting from achievement to alignment by reconnecting with your values is something that you can do. Like, what actually matters to you? What kind of day feels good in your body? This is what we explore deeply inside of Self-Love Uni and my private coaching programs, because when you align with your true self, you unlock sustainable energy. And that feels good. There's also co-regulation and community support. So think that healing isn't meant to happen alone. Whether it is a trusted friend, a coach, a safe space like Self-Love Uni, a community that co-regulates the nervous system, even a quick voice note exchange with someone who gets it can shift your whole state. When you are seen and supported, your system softens and you start to believe that you don't have to carry it all alone. And that is where real transformation begins. So seek spaces that honor your wholeness, not only your productivity. Okay? Burnout does not mean you're broken. It doesn't make you broken. It makes you human. And your healing doesn't have to be extreme or perfect. It just has to begin with one breath, one boundary, one brave moment of rest. You are allowed to create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you are resonating with this and you're ready for more support, I would love to walk with you, whether that is through Self-Love Uni or private coaching. There is space for you here to heal and rise and reclaim your light. Okay? You can find details in the notes down below. Well, here's a question for you. What if burnout isn't the price of purpose? Because we have been sold a story that says, well, if it matters, it has to hurt. That success demands sacrifice, and that the only way to be taken seriously is to show how tired we are. But what if that's a lie and we're ready to rewrite it? What if burnout isn't the tax we pay for a meaningful life, but a sign that it's time to build something better, something that's more aligned, more sustainable, more true? This final little segment, this last little idea that I have is your reminder that ease and impact are not mutually exclusive. You get to choose another way. If you didn't tune into that episode, What If It Gets to Be Easy? Check it out. That's good. So in this culture, we've already said this, that glorifies exhaustion, rest is a radical act, okay? It is practically a protest against perfectionism. It's also a sacred reclaiming of your body and your time and your energy. And when you choose rest, especially when it's uncomfortable, you are not giving up. You are standing up for a new way of living. And that sends ripples through your home and your community and the entire world. Purpose isn't supposed to feel like a weight. Like your purpose is not meant to feel like a weight. It's meant to nourish, not drain. It's meant to feel like a wellspring. Yes, it will challenge you, but it should also fill you. And if your work is draining the life out of you, it might be time to reevaluate not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. How is it set up? Purpose, in its highest form, partners with your nervous system. And it whispers, let's grow, without abandoning yourself in the process. I have this great episode called The Nervous System is Your Business Partner, something along those lines. That's a good one to check out. Freedom is built through systems. So you definitely want to be building systems that support you, whether it is automating part of your business or meal prepping to reduce stress or scheduling screen-free time. Whatever it is, these small systems that you create are the structure that protects your peace. And these aren't rigid rules, they are loving frameworks. Okay? Inside of my coaching containers, we go deep into designing rhythms that feel natural and nourishing. Because, guys, listen, structure does not limit your freedom. It creates it. It took me a long time to figure that out. But now I know. I want to also redefine what it means to be strong, okay? Real strength isn't pushing through when you're depleted. It's being honest when you're not okay. It's asking for help. It's saying no. It's choosing rest and softness and slowness when your ego wants to prove. Strong doesn't mean stoic. Strong means self-honoring, and it means staying true to what you need, even if it disappoints someone else's expectation of you. Okay? A future without burnout is possible. Burnout is not inevitable. It is not your destiny. It's a symptom of systems, both internal and external, that need to be rewritten. And you, love, are a powerful author. Okay? You are allowed to create a life where success and softness coexist, where you rise and rest, where you build and breathe. This is a future we are all walking into, okay, together. So here is what I'm going to leave you with today. What if burnout is not proof that you care, but proof that you are overdue to take care for yourself? Okay? What if the most world-changing thing that you could do is show people what it looks like to thrive from the inside out? This episode is your invitation to stop chasing balance and start building alignment. Okay? If you are ready to go deeper, to unlearn the hustle, to build a business or life with soul, and to rewire your nervous system and reclaim your peace, I'm here. My coaching is not about adding more to your plate. Guys, it's about clearing space so what matters can finally breathe and come to the surface and come to you. You are not meant to burn out. You are meant to burn bright. I hope this episode is your moment to choose ease and choose softness and choose you. And I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.